Oh, hey CJ, how are you today?
What's up, Charlie? How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Now, I just want to there's a lot of English people do listen to this podcast. So, CJ, is that your actual name?
Yeah, so it's not even an American thing. It's just my name is weird. CJ is my legal first name. So my name is CJ Carmine Joseph DePalma. So um, the CJ is legally on my birth certificate. Now, if you looked at like my social security card or like any medical records, it doesn't say it. Social security here didn't even believe my name was CJ, so they didn't even put it on my card. So I've had this name debacle my entire life. Very challenging. Like when like we're looking for records and things like that, because you have to type in like specific
Yeah.
names. Like and DePalma is Italian, so is there a space? Is there not a space? It's a nightmare. So CJ is my legal first name.
That's insane. Even I didn't know that about your
Yeah,
social security. I,
yeah.
I I personally love your name. Now, what is it that you do, and why do you do it? And also, how do we know each other?
Sure. Um, what do I do? So I am a physical therapist, right? It's so strange. I'm a physical therapist by trade. I went
That's
to
of England.
I'm a physio. I went to school. I have a doctorate in physical therapy, and so from then, I opened a clinic in Pensacola, Florida, which is in the Panhandle, and um, inside of a CrossFit gym. This gym, well, not this location, but the gym that I'm sitting in right now. And so, I built a private practice, cash only clinic, and throughout those early years, I met Ben, who's the owner of WOD Prep, and so now I have a clinic. I have a clinic called the Movement Doctor. That's what the clinic is called. It's not a brick and mortar anymore. We can get to that at some point later on. Um, but then I'm also the head coach at WODprep. So WODprep is an online fitness company, and I am the head coach. So we write the main programming, and I manage the other coaches, and we do individual program design for CrossFit athletes.
Awesome. You're my coach as well. So we do I
Yes,
do the one-on-one with you, and you
right.
literally kick my butt in the gym every single week.
That's the goal. That's the point. Well, it's not the point for everybody. It's only the point for some, but for you, that's the goal.
Yeah, exactly. No, I asked
That's
for that. I would say I asked for that.
for sure.
So with because obviously you do wear a few multiple hats, like sticking with the movement doctor. What is the vision for the business?
Honestly, now it's shifted a ton over the years. So I've been in business 7 years now, and initially it was to grow a private practice to treat at a high rate, treat 4 to 5 hours a day at whatever $200 to $250 a session, and be done and kind of like enjoy life. It's always been in the direction of the business has always been to improve my personal life, like 100%. And so, like, to be this feeder into like living the personal life that I wanted to live. And it's done a really good job of that over the years. Um, so I have had this brick and mortar literally since November of 2016. And so that's going on 7 full years. And this is my last month on lease. So I will not have a brick and mortar anymore. Uh, for a couple of reasons. I have a PT that works with me who also works at the other company, WODprep, who works here, but she has a very full schedule. I have a very full schedule with our individual design athletes. Um, and so there's just no reason for us to have it. We don't do a lot of in-person treatment. So the new vision or the adjusted is to shift back to really pushing. I did a lot of social media work early on in my career and did okay. And so we're going to take a push for the next 6 months to see if we can get the page to start growing again and maybe build another online footprint, maybe hire some personal training coaches or something like that to work with athletes there. And I enjoy social media. So, but the overall focus is to continue to grow within WODprep, continue to grow WODprep because when WODprep grows, so does Movement Doctor. So
And I love that you've made that decision or you've got into that process of adapting as things have changed, lifestyle has changed. I know you've recently become a dad as well, which will also has a big factor in with cute Bennett, a
that's
big
right.
factor in how like you're saying, that you're doing business because of the life that you really want to create, and then you now got to factor in more people than just yourself from when you first started.
Yep.
Let's talk about going from a physical location to going fully online, because that is an experience a lot of people have been going through. What were the ups and downs of going through that process?
Yeah, so I think it was pretty much just an up for us, right? I know we talked about early on, or like, we'll talk about ups and downs. The business hasn't had a lot of downs, right? We've done really, really well in the sense of like when I have a vision, we were able to execute it really well and it ended up being the right thing. And so whether that's by luck, probably by luck more than by, whatever innate
Well,
genius
let's bring
was inside of me. But it's going online. So when you move online, you have to assess your business a different type of way, right? In like the product that you offer. The product we offered since day one was designed to be online, and we just didn't know it, right? So the way that we treat patients or athletes or whatever, right, is we do an evaluation in person, and from then, my method of treating has always been to derive rehab and training and put them together and then feed it to the athlete. And so our main clientele has been CrossFit athletes. And since then, I don't need to watch. So like your traditional physio or physical therapist, you get an eval, you go to the doctor and you get an eval, and then you go to PT and they assess you, and then you go 2 to 3 times a week for 6 to 8 weeks or whatever it may be. Or if you're injured, you're actually like ACL tear or something, it's a little bit longer. But for the patient population that we had, I didn't need to see them do exercises, right? I just needed to write their training for them to stop making dumb decisions, right? Because that's usually what it is, right? Or like not knowing what to do as they're going through the healing process. So about a year in, my first year, we really prided ourselves on like one visit in and out, discharge. That's the greatest business. That's the greatest moral compass of a PT ever, for sure. It was the worst business decision because I couldn't get anyone to come back. We'd get them in, I'd convince them that it's not that bad because it never is. I'd give them a bunch of exercises, and then I wouldn't see them again. So I had this one visit average for like 18 months. And I was like, this is dumb. And it's not dumb, it worked, but I was like, we can provide something better. And it doesn't have to be this physical therapy traditional model, right? Because it can get really expensive. And so we came up with this kind of remote management of athletes very early on. And so, or even of people that weren't athletes, we use a system called True Coach, no plug. They sure as hell don't pay me, I pay them. But, and so through that system, we're able to communicate with them every day, write their training, or just rehab, but usually it's a combination of both. So the shift online has been since very, very early on, right? And it's what I've preferred because I like to, have my own schedule. I hated appointments. I hated having to be inside of a brick and mortar for a certain amount of time. And so it was just a natural fit.
Yeah. I'd say there was a little bit of element of luck, because there always is an element of luck when it comes to business. But really, if we break down the process that let's naturally come to, you've gone, well, my goal of the business is I'm doing this to get X lifestyle, because this is what I like, and you established that quite early on. And then looking at the clinic, you've looked at it and gone, well, I don't want to be stuck within these 4 walls for this period of time, because that goes against my values and it goes against my goal as this lifestyle, which has then almost forced you to rethink the how that product works. Now, one of the things I've always, and not everybody does that, everybody just accepts what the status quo is of, oh, I'm going to be a PT, I'm going to be a physio, I must do it this way because that's how the standard has been done. And you've not, you really have thought about it differently to fit your needs. Now, one of the other things that you said, which is one of the things I've always loved about you, is you do have this very high ethical, moral standpoints when it comes to the product. And that's where you started at with, really you want people to come in one session and come out and that's it. But then you've left this really rubbish business model because then you've got no repeat business, which is
Right.
usually 99% of most lifeline of businesses is you've got that reassurance that you've got
Yep.
that recurring income. So then you've then thought, right, how can we look at the product itself so that it remains ethically high, but you've got that retention and hence the
Yep.
programming that's coming
Yep.
into place. And that's why I say it's not a bit of luck. You've just very naturally broken it down into the different stages of which I'd say a lot of other people could take note as that as a blueprint and look at their own business and see how they could also replicate it.
Yep.
That's my opinion. So you said there's not been many challenges, well, feel like there's not been a huge amount of downs. So
Mm.
going forward now, because you're saying you're going back to social media, going back to the programming, what are the challenges that you probably foresee in the future for the new goal going ahead?
Yeah. I think it's really hard to grow social media footprint nowadays. It's a lot different than what it was. And so you kind of just have to find your niche. Um, and the challenges that I'm struggling with now are not so much with it's just decision making with the movement doctor. How much money do I want to put into like the brand, right? The movement doctor brand, because the brand itself is not what, is not the majority of the income that I make. It's being a contractor for the other company. And that makes 94% or something crazy like that, right? So I think the challenges are probably more internal with like pride and ego and things like that. It's like, do I care? Do I really want to keep the brand alive? In the sense of it's my own thing under an umbrella of a bigger company. Do I want it to have its own little niche and still grow? And so, that's kind of what we're trying to figure out now. I don't have a good answer for that. 5 years ago, I made the push. So my mantra, motto, whatever you want to call it, we'll call it maybe mission statement. It's probably more of a mission statement. Was to affect the most people, right? And so we worked through that for a long time. And I had a lot of mentors early on. And I was on the phone with one of them, and I was like, hey, I don't know what to do, right? And because I was like, do I want to like me and Ben, the owner of the company I'm in now, we had a really like headbutted really hard one year, and kind of like deciding, is the one-on-one coaching the thing that I was doing in the company? Is it the movement doctor doing it, and then WOD Prep's just feeding it to me, and I'm going to do everything, right? Because I was kind of like paying for the stuff, and it was like my brand was just sort of doing it, and so when people would post, they would only post movement doctor and not WOD Prep, et cetera. And so like, well, I want to affect the most people, right? Whatever that looks like. And WOD Prep's reach and footprint it's literally like not even, it's over 100 times bigger than my footprint. So, and Ben is an amazing person to work with and work for. I wouldn't even call it working for. He just kind of like gave me the baby, right? And I raised it, right? And how I felt and how I was seen. So it's really not even that I work for another company. I just happen to receive money from another company that's like not movement doctor, but it's still my company, right? And so like, and I think it's all of ours. With that being said, I think the struggles now are kind of trying to decide like what movement doctors should look like. So right now we're going to take a push for maybe 4 to 6 months to see if we can get the page to grow. And that could be just kind of almost like a passion project, because I don't know, Instagram and social media is, some people can really make it big, but so many people are, they don't make a lot of it. And so it's a net loss for me right now. Maybe it won't be in February or whatever, 6 months from now. So we're gonna take the push and we'll see. And if it's not, it's not creating revenue for the business, then we'll probably cut it out and move on and spend a lot less money and just kind of enjoy more free time, So,
Yeah, because there's loads of things that you said around social media, and you're right. I've certainly felt the difference between starting doing social media. When did I start? 15 years ago compared to now. It's a whole different ball game.
oh yeah.
So, firstly, from when you started to now, what are the big differences that you've noticed?
The social media?
Yeah.
Um, hmm. I think it's all based on the consumer, right? I think the consumer's mindset on what's valuable or what's attractive or what's addicting has changed drastically. When I started social media, it's mainly Instagram, right? Facebook doesn't. I don't think Facebook counts from a social media platform. I think it's more of like a business
It's doing
platform
a
to like sell. Huh?
Facebook's doing Facebook's doing a slow death.
I know. So, well, they went public. That was dumb. Anyways, so I think the consumers changed, so the content has changed, right? And when I started, you could only make pictures, right? Instagram in 2016, they didn't have any videos yet because Vine was still a thing. Well,
Yeah.
then the 15-second video started. Vine died like the next day, right? Like Vine was just it, and then it was just like bam, it was just dead, right? Solely because Instagram said you can allow videos, and so then we had this video, and then it was like up to 30 seconds, and then it grew to a minute, and now you can post as long as you want. There's no limits, and so uh, what?
You can do a whole documentary on there and
Right,
post it.
exactly. And so back then you didn't have the forever scroll either, which is a huge different player, right? It's like now you have reels. Reels never end. Reels also live forever, right? So you get the YouTube flow of like the lifeline of a post that you didn't have when we started, right? Like you needed to post at a certain time. You need to make sure that post was wildly engaging instantly so it could push your feed. And there was no way, there was almost no way for you to get to non-followers, right? Like, because no one uses the search, right? Like no one actually uses that on Instagram. They go to the reels and they scroll and they see someone, they click it. So
Yeah.
before that, it was so hard to gain followers because it was hard to get your stuff out to that's to someone who wasn't following you because it wasn't that user friendly at that point for the real concept, right, of like seeing content from people you don't follow. And so when there was hashtags were huge. Now hashtags, like Instagram came out literally and said hashtags are dead. Like last week they were like hashtags are not helpful at all. You need to improve your caption and keywords within your caption, and that's when it'll get pumped out. So
You also know about the secret little tool you can do. So hashtags are dead. I saw the announcement as well. It was like, yeah, it doesn't do anything. When you're doing a post, go into the advanced settings, and now there is an alt text in the back end of your post of which you can almost write your keywords into there, and that is the way that Instagram are denoting how like what you want to be found for. So basically, they're putting SEO into Instagram because that is
on the
essentially
back end.
yeah. So that's how hashtags have always worked. It's always worked on this SEO principle,
Right.
but now we're almost formalizing it, but not announced that advanced setting. So you just have to go into the back end of it.
Interesting. I'll have to do it. I'll look at that today. I have a post come out today. It's a funny one. It's more CrossFit than it's another voiceover. It's like me going back and forth. It's funny. So yeah, I think that's like the biggest changes that I've seen. And there's some more platforms, right? YouTube has Shorts, TikTok has TikTok or whatever. YouTube is long form. YouTube is most monetizable. I don't really care to try and grow YouTube. I just need There's just so much more work that's to go into video editing for YouTube stuff, and I don't want to pay that kind of money. I just keep it simple, and I enjoy it. So I like making people laugh, and I like talking shit on the internet. So let's
Never noticed. No, we're
try.
just going into more detail because if say uh, somebody is looking to promote their business more through social media, you do have a good following behind you. So what are the things that you're doing in your social media that's helping you to grow your platform?
First is no shame, right? So that's like really important. You make fun of yourself a lot, and you put yourself out there to be funny, and I think that's good. Um, Consistency is always. Am I giving advice? Is that what you're asking? Like the advice to the person that's trying to grow?
No, it's what you're doing. Because I know you've been experimenting, you've been trying new things, you're almost kind of testing what's out there, and you've
Yeah.
brought on people to help you. Any anything that inspires inspiration for others.
Yeah, sure. So, find what you're passionate about. It doesn't really matter what it is. There's what, like 1.5 billion people or 2 billion people on Instagram. So, um, it's going to attract someone. Find your niche, find your target audience, find your avatar, right? Who you want to work with, or like what do you want to sell? Make sure there's someone out there that wants to buy whatever you're trying to sell, right? Always remember that. It's something that I think we forget a lot is, you know, the product still has to match the consumer, and then you have to make sure you understand what the consumer wants. Um, and in consistency, right? You have to do it every day, and that's what Instagram rewards. You have to do it every day. Some people will say you don't. I disagree across the board. Your best social media people post every day, multiple times a day.
Yep.
And the algorithm is always changing. Make sure you're doing your research and setting up on what it says. Like, follow all the creators and Instagram. There's like 4 or 5 of like the main developers that have pretty big pages. They talk about stuff all the time. Follow them. I have no idea what their names are.
They pop up when you start looking for that kind of stuff. The algorithm is listening. As soon as you start saying to people, "Hey, I want to follow some Instagram influencers or gurus," they will come up on your Instagram feed. No worries.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So interestingly enough, I was reading someone on the back, or like when it was Instagram did like the social media, whatever, like how it's, I don't know, whatever, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and then I don't know, what was it called? It was like their insider scoop kind of thing, on the companies. I don't know, kind of like you were watching like the football thing recently. So it's like the dark side of social media. I can't remember what it was called.
Analytica.
And so one of the guys on there was talking about, like, everyone thinks that devices are listening, and they are technically, but what he made it seem, and how he explained how like random things will pop up like that, is if you're close with someone in proximity, that you were having that conversation, that means that person was most likely looking it up. And now that, because those two devices were close in proximity, it will now jump to your device. So it's not a listening tool. It's like it's like a geocache kind of thing. Like, and so like it works from that. And I assume you probably know this, but I'm just kind of talking it out and how I understood it. And so devices aren't like, like listening. Like you see like the real, when it's like a dad and father just like PlayStation, and like walks away from the phone. It's more of like, you were talking about that with someone, that person was looking at it on their phone. You guys are close. It assumes that you might be interested in it as well. And so that's where it comes from. And I don't know how true that is. It could be listening. Who knows? Right. I mean, it probably are, but that's what it sounded like. And I was like, that sounds more like less conspiracy, more like science. So I was like, I go with that one.
I mean, a part of me still thinks they are listening. So it is my birthday coming up. So I'm like,
that's
nibble,
right.
Is it like
That's right.
barbell?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, free clothes. Please send me new shoes.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I love that you're taking the time, because you're right. On for Charleh with Friends, we are posting twice a day, and I've got plans to increase that, because I know what the algorithms are, and they've got other strategies in place to increase it again, to grow our following and grow our channel. Now that might seem very time consuming to a lot of people, and I know for a fact that you've got an incredibly busy schedule. So, and it's still not using that as you're not using that as an excuse. So what have you been doing to be able to keep up with the algorithms, to block out that time, to make content, to schedule content, and get it out there? And how are you then validating it as well for your business, to say like
it's worth it? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one thing that I have like committed to since like day one was always invest in yourself to grow, right? Whether that's education or hiring people, and even if it makes you more thin. And so as a sole proprietor, now not quite a sole proprietor anymore, the most challenging times are when you hire to grow, because there's going to be a point that you hire and you don't grow at all, and you're actually losing, you're making less money than what you did prior, right? And so as you're in these like really big growing phases, and everyone's always in a growing phase, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. And so um, like you have to look at your life, right? And you have to live minimally, right? Like, if you're fresh out of college, you want to do this, you gotta still pretend you're eating ramen, like, and like, reusing water cups, right? Like you just have to make that commitment. And so I'm fortunate if we don't have to do that anymore, but we did, right? I came out of PT school. Average PT in the States makes anywhere from 60 to 75 grand. Maybe we'll go 65 to 75 USD, which isn't a lot of money because our school costs like 160 USD or something like that, which is insane. It's literally the worst. I've said literally a lot of this. It is the worst debt to income ratio in all of health. All of health. Dentistry, physician, PT, PTA, whatever. Nurse,
Yeah.
all of it is the worst debt to income ratio in all of healthcare. And of course, they don't teach you that when you come out, right? We don't know any of this. And so
No.
I was net zero for like 3 years, and I was able to uh, make good decisions with taxes and like how I design my business and things like that. So we were able to live, right? But I didn't make a dollar for a long time,
Mm.
and um, and then started to make money, right? And so sacrificing early is important. Stay on
Mm.
it, and then now it's a challenge. There's not an easy thing. I hired people to help me do it, and I enjoy it. Right, I really enjoy making content. I wish I wasn't as busy so I could make more. I'd pump out 8 videos a day if I could. Right, I
Mm.
love it. I love being stupid on Instagram or like making something that ruffles a feather. Um, and so yeah, so those are the things that you have to consider and take into account. But um, you got to really, really enjoy it. And there's always going to be sacrifice. You're always going to have to sacrifice some things. Like right now, I played a lot of golf. I'm not playing a lot of golf right now. I'm kind of coming in from some health stuff and then just a very busy schedule. So hopefully that kind of comes back. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's a find something you really enjoy doing. Be willing to
Mm.
sacrifice some luxuries in life early on, and know that it'll pay off in the end.
I completely agree. I don't think I can eat porridge anymore because I had porridge for so many years. Because it's
Sure.
obviously porridge, super cheap, super filling, super good,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a basic diet from the very early days. Now, um, looking back over this times, because like you said, you've had that discipline to be well, the discipline about how your lifestyle is set up because you know you're going for the greater goal, which is a skill in itself. I always test that to sports. People who've done sports find that skill, able to adopt that skill a lot easier because that's what sports really drills into you is that delayed gratification because you know you can be more disciplined now because the rewards you get later will be
Yeah.
worthwhile. Um, now, more positively, what is one of the biggest wins in your business that you've had? And why do you think, how did that come about?
Um, Biggest wins. Um, so this was like it's kind of on this like schedule and lifestyle thing. So we'll go with this because it really is the driver of everything that I do. I made a commitment that I wanted to be able to be home with Bennett, my son, who's 10 months old, whenever was necessary, and not have to take off work or not have to do whatever. And he was 3 months old, and parent went to work, and he stayed home with me that first day. It was in January or whatever, January 7th or something like that. And it was all worth it at that point. It was like everything had worked. We got where we wanted to go. I can be a stay-at-home dad and still be the breadwinner in the family. And so that's always been the goal, right? And so we say one of the goals, but the biggest one. Does it make it challenging? For sure. I had to keep him. He had to stay home from school last Friday, and I was like, this is tough. But I was fine, right? I was able to do it. We didn't have to call a babysitter. We didn't have to pay someone. We didn't stress. We were literally walking out the door. He threw up all over me, and I was like, well, we're staying home today. And we did, and it was fine, right? And it was just like, that's just what it is. And so um, it was, that's the biggest win that I've ever had. It was just to be able to do that. And so all of my wins will for sure come to like how it's affected my life, not so much of like in the business. I could say we cracked X dollar figure or we revenued this or I was able to buy this or whatever it was. And then I have a lot of like um, like the people we've helped wins, because we treat a lot different than the norm, and we've opened a lot of eyes. We've affected a lot of people into this different mindset of what rehab should look like. And so I count all those as wins. But my biggest things that really stand out um, are like the effect and the positive effect it's had on my family.
I love that you've brought that up as well, because it's so easy to look at the Instagram lens, because it is now fashionable to be an entrepreneur or an influencer, and see these very glossy Instagram lives and
Mhm.
think, oh, like you should be earning X amount, or you should be traveling the. I don't know. Yeah, I tend to see like a lot of travel in the world as like this ultimate goal, or to have this car or this house or whatever. Just put X materialism in there,
Mhm.
and I don't think it gets. Well, I don't know if it's just my lens. That's the world I live in, but I don't feel like it gets talked about enough, of actually just having that freedom to take that day off to spend time with family and things to carry on going is
Mhm.
actually one of the top goals on my priority list, because that is
Yeah.
essentially, you've got that option, that choice of flexibility in your schedule, and I think that is one of the ultimate freedom that
Yeah.
more people should be trying to attain.
Yep. Time is everything, right? So
It's
everyone
the only
always
thing we
asks me, yeah, it's the only finite thing in life. It's time, right? And that's it. I mean, I guess life is, but I guess you can count those in the same thing. So time is it, right? And so uh, early on, it was always like, how can I create more time? I can always make more money, but I can't always make more time. And so it was just moving to that needle. And that was another big reason why I went to WOD Prep. WOD Prep has a great team and a great structure to support my ideas and things. And there's things that I really suck at, but there's things that I'm really fucking good at. And things that I'm really good at uh, help push the company forward. And the things that I'm really terrible at, other people help rein in the ridiculousness and like make a product or whatever it is, including you and the other few on the team that are in product development and marketing. And so um, it was to create more time, right? Even if Ben uses, Ben's the owner of WOD Prep, uses this analogy all the time. It's like a slice of a watermelon is usually substantially larger than a whole grape, right? So that was kind of it, right? So like, it's just a piece of it. I don't own the company. It's not my thing, but it's a lot bigger, right, than my grape, right? And so we have other things to support. So um, that's it's always been to create more time, whether that's like for my family, or so I can work on my golf game, or so I can train, or so we can travel. Um, it's time. Time like boils it down, right? So like
Mhm.
the overarching goal, and everyone around me knows that.
Yeah.
Everyone around me knows, and so the initiatives that we're working towards are always to not necessarily make more money, but to sustain the income or the revenue that I'm receiving and work substantially less, right? So, and it's been a process.
Yeah.
I thought we'd be here already. We're not quite there. We're on the way. We'll get there soon.
That's, I
Hashtag
think that every gotta get that plug
bro.
in there. No, just I'll say that every entrepreneur I know, or business owner I know, they say like they're they're not there yet, because things don't come at us as quickly as we would like. But that's, again, is part of the process. And I agree with you again on WOD Prep for a slight plug, again a slight plug. But we do feel like a very naturally balanced team, where we all bring completely different things to the table constantly. But because I always feel like all of us have all got this such a common goal, and such we're all positively trying to drive for the same thing, even though we come at things
Yep.
different angles. We do listen to each other because we want the same thing at the end of the day, and that's kind of how we work as a team. So I agree.
Yep.
Finally, what is one thing that somebody could buy from you today that is under 100?
From the movement doctor, nothing. But from a lot of things in WOD Prep, we sell programming, right? If you want to build your CrossFit programming, that's what it is. But we don't have anything. We only sell like our individual time, and it's over $100. So another thing that we've kind of committed to, right, is like like who our market and target market is. And so that's just where it lies. But we sell a templated type CrossFit training plan with lots of other variances off that. We have like a gymnastics focus, there's strength focus, aerobic or engine focus, and all of those are well under $100.
Absolutely. And I know we've talked a lot about sort of the content and social media as well. You've been fixing my shoulder. I've been in sports for years and years and years. I've got loads of old stuff that's come with that. That's obviously carried into CrossFit, and you've been helping, and you put a ton of information on your social media as well that people can follow for free.
Yeah, all that's free. Yep.
I'll put it out there as well, definitely. And then you can look at the stupid memes as well, because they're actually quite funny.
That's right. I think they're the best, for sure. I got a good one coming out today. I don't know when this comes out, but it's a funny one.
Yeah, this will come out in a while, so that you got to go back and scroll for it. But there'll be a ton of
go back and scroll.
August 25th. Well, thank you so much for your time and coming onto the podcast. It's always a pleasure to have you on and speak to you with you. So thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Charleh.